For the first few months, life together felt easy. Lek settled into the rhythm of Pattaya without the bar. Mornings were slow now. Coffee, messages to her mother, quiet breakfasts with John. There was no panic about money, no counting of baht at the end of the day. John liked providing for her. It gave him purpose. It made him feel needed again. But Lek missed her daughter in a way that lived under her skin. She spoke often about Isan, about home, about the rice fields, about her mother's cooking. She wanted John to go with her, to see where she came from. At the same time, the thought filled her with anxiety. She was still legally married, even if the marriage was long over. She worried about how her family would judge her. She worried her daughter might cling to her grandmother and reject this foreign man entirely. John reassured her patiently. He told her families were families everywhere, that he just wanted to understand her life better, that he would follow her lead. When they arrived in Isan, John was unprepared for the reality. The poverty stunned him. The thin buffaloes standing motionless in the heat, ribs visible. Rubbish scattered across fields that once must have been green. The house was smaller than he imagined, darker too. There was no air conditioning, only a fan that moved the hot air slowly from one side of the room to the other. The food was the hardest part. Raw fish, fermented fish sauce thick with chilies, smells that lingered long after the meal was finished. John smiled and tried to be polite, but his body rebelled. Everything was too spicy, too pungent, too unfamiliar. Secretly, he longed for a cheeseburger, for something solid and predictable. Sleep was broken. Mosquitoes found him easily. He lay on the floor under a thin blanket, sweating, listening to the sounds of the village at night. He told himself it was temporary. He reminded himself why he was there. He was happy to be with Lek. Still, he missed his condo. Lek's family welcomed him warmly. They smiled often, laughed loudly, and treated him with a careful respect. Even without English, their message was clear. They could see he had money. They could see what he represented. They pointed out the roof that leaked, the wall that needed fixing, the land next door that had just come up for sale, an incredible bargain, they said, something that would never come again. They never asked him directly. They didn't need to. John understood perfectly. He had known this moment would come, and he had prepared himself for it. In his mind, this was simply part of loving Lek. If helping her family made her happy, then it was worth it. Lek, meanwhile, had grown used to being provided for. John paid for everything now: food, clothes, shoes, small comforts she had never allowed herself to want before. He gave her an allowance without being asked. He told her she never needed to worry again. Slowly, gently, she stopped worrying, and she stopped being afraid to ask. But as the days passed, a heaviness settled in her chest. Lek began to feel guilty. She cared for John deeply, but her feelings were not romantic. He was old, and she was still young. She noticed other men without meaning to. She felt attraction stir where it no longer stirred for him. At night, lying beside John, she sometimes stared at the ceiling, listening to his breathing, wondering how she had arrived here. John believed he was building a future. Lek feared she was borrowing one. Like and subscribe if you want to